Nuanez now. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
I like football!
Now here's your host, Coulter Nuanez.
Well, hello. What's up, Montana? Welcome in. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Coulter Nuanez, and we're coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport, this is their last week of their big anniversary sale. You can find huge discounts on their lot here in Missoula, corner of Stevens and Mount. You can also find the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest by visiting nwmsrocks.com. Check out their huge inventory and huge discounts now at Northwest Motorsport's anniversary sale. Thanks so much for being here. Hope you're having a great Thursday. We're getting into the swing of things now, getting into the routine. Because it's a Thursday, this is going to be a basketball-dominant show. We have hoops all around the Big Sky, both women's and men's. Breaking news this afternoon, the Lady Grizz game against Eastern Washington in Cheney, scheduled for Saturday afternoon, called off. COVID issues within the Lady Grizz program. When I first saw the email, I was thinking, oh, shoot, because I was thinking it might have been Eastern, and I know Montana State was already on the way to Eastern, so I was thinking, oh, I hope they didn't get 4 hours on their bus ride and have to turn around. But that game is off, but the game between Montana State and Eastern, as of right now, a couple hours before tip, still on. Plus, men's hoops in the state of Montana for the first time since New Year's weekend. How crazy is that? The Cats haven't played at home since January 9th. The Grizz have not played at home since January 1st. I keep trying to figure out, why can't I get a better beat on this Grizz team? Well, I haven't watched them in 4 weeks. So we'll be down there, Dahlberg Arena tonight, Idaho in town to take on Montana. Brooks Nuanez is going to swing by second hour to break things down on the men's side of things, talk both Bobcats, Grizzlies, and all the way around the Big Sky Conference. Second hour is also going to include the second half of our segment with Justin Angle from Tuesday. We went a little long, and so we cut it up into two different segments. So we'll play that for you. The Los Angeles Rams doing something very, very interesting when it comes to geofencing and ticketing, because they're playing their in-state rival, the San Francisco 49ers, with a bid to the Super Bowl on the line. So Justin will break all that down for you. But because it's a Thursday, you already know how this thing is going to start. Around the Big Sky Women's Hoops with Crystal Redpath. Krista in studio with us. And this week, our presenting sponsor, the Missoula Downtown Partnership. If you want to stream the show, listen to the show anywhere on any of your mobile devices, which, by the way, got a very sweet message on our ESPN Facebook, Krista, by somebody that I believe they said that they used to babysit you years and years ago. They live in Florida now.
Oh, jeez.
I'll look up
Carol Maxon.
Carol
Yes.
Maxon, there you go. So, yes, and she sent a sweet message, and she said, I'm down in Florida. I would love to listen on my iPad. How can I do it? So I sent her the link, 1029ESPN.com. Just click on Listen Live. You can listen to us anywhere in the world, including in Florida. So hopefully she's tuning in. But I thought that was great. We got reach all the way down to the Sunshine State. Pretty cool.
That is great, Coulter.
Also, if you want to watch on YouTube, you can always do that as well. And if you want to get a hold of us, you want to be a part of the show, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. You'll want to remember that because we have a six-pack of beer and a sandwich from Warden's Market for you. Six-pack and a Sammy every Thursday here on Nuanez Now. We'll do that around 5:30, so stay tuned for that as well. 888-1029. You can call or text if you want to be a part of the conversation, be a part of the show, or if you want to win one of our outstanding prizes. Speaking of Warden's, that's one of the great places in Missoula, downtown, you can eat. And right now, the Missoula Downtown Partnership, they are presenting this Downtown Dine Local Week. Get your taste buds ready, Missoula. January 24th through the 30th, from burgers to brunch, tacos to teriyaki, coffee to cocktails. Downtown Missoula restaurants have it all. Feed your soul and fuel your neighborhood. Brought to you by the Downtown Missoula Partnership. To learn more, visit MissoulaDowntown.com/Dine Local Week. And it's important because there's a whole bunch of great restaurants here in the city of Missoula. I think that everybody that is a Missoulian knows that one of the most fun things you can do is just go downtown, walk around, hang out with your friends and family, enjoy the river, the views, and a great meal. But it's important right now because a lot of these restaurants downtown, they've been struggling. And, I know everybody's taking a hit, but I read a striking article in The Economist last week about just how much revenue restaurants have lost. So if you are going out to eat, concentrate on dining local always, but particularly this week because there's a whole bunch of fun stuff. And you can always find out everything that's going on in downtown Missoula by going to MissoulaDowntown.com. Krista, what's going on? How you feeling?
I am feeling great, Coulter.
Good.
And I was just thinking about all the amazing eateries we have in Missoula.
It is.
I mean, there is so much good stuff.
You could go out to dinner every single night of the week and it would never get old. You could have a new place all the time. It's awesome. Speaking of the Rams and the 49ers, you must be on cloud nine because
I almost wore all 49ers today.
Krista's a diehard 49ers fan. What a victory on Saturday. I mean, completely implausible. I love the Niners. I think they're an incredibly good team. But nobody was putting their money on San Francisco going to win in a night game at Lambeau Field when it's 5 degrees. That's one of the great upsets.
Packers going down.
It's one of the great upsets we've seen in the NFL. Gotta love it. So congratulations to you.
Thank you, Coulter. I felt like that afternoon, actually, my son's team had a club basketball game, and it ended up at 6 p.m. Thought, how is this possible?
Right.
I'm coaching, and it went into double overtime.
Oh, geez.
We were down by 4 with 11 seconds left. We came back and won. And I felt like there was no way the Niners were going to lose after we won that 8th grade game. So we were bringing them luck.
What is your thought on Jimmy Garoppolo? Because he is like the most polarizing character in the NFL.
Love, hate with him.
Here's the thing. I always try to emphasize this on this show. I know the NFL is a quarterback-driven league. I know it is. And if you have Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, guys like that, it does give you the ultimate chance to win. Certainly. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, absolutely. But if you have a team with a roster flush with superstars that aren't quarterbacks like the 49ers do, then if you can just have an okay, solid guy, that's a key. I mean, I've gone through this as a Vikings fan for the last 10 years. Mike Zimmer is a defensive coach. They have a defensive roster. They're trying to win with a quarterback who's not good enough. So I would have rather had a cheaper guy so you can keep all the good defensive guys. If you can afford Jimmy Garoppolo, that's fine. Give me Nick Bosa and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle all day long.
Those are all phenomenal. I can't say too much. I feel like I don't want to set anything up. Right now, I am a fan of Jimmy G.
I love it.
Today, in this moment.
Hey, that's good. I mean, why not? I've won so much money betting on the Niners this playoff run. I'm going to keep it rolling. Why not? Krista Redpath in studio around the big sky in women's hoops. Let's get into it because we have not just the normal slate of weekend games to recap, but in fact, we have 3 games each for the Montana and Montana State women's basketball teams, plus a whole bunch of other teams throughout the league, because with all these postponements, pushing the schedules, Monday has become like the stacked day. Sometimes it just like blows my mind. It's so hard to even keep it straight in your head. Like today, Weber State was playing in the afternoon. One of our colleagues, Brett Hine, who covers Weber State down there in Ogden, he was tweeting about basketball at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, what is happening? I guess there's a Tuesday game. Weber State, by the way, they did lose, and that's 6 straight losses for Weber State. So we'll get into that in a little while. But Monday, a primetime showdown in Bozeman. You were there on the call on SWX Montana Television. Montana State and Montana slugged it out for about 2.5 quarters, and then the Bobcats really opened things up with a 13-2 run down the stretch of the third quarter into the beginning of the fourth quarter. Taylor Jansen hit 3 3-pointers during that stretch. And the Bobcats built their lead up to 21 points and then end up cruising to a 73-59 victory. Before we get some of the details, just your initial impressions of this, because pretty wild to see the way that the arc of this rivalry has changed. For 30-plus years, it was almost an afterthought that the Lady Grizz would take care of business against the Bobcats. Now Montana State, they've won 10 out of the last 11 in this rivalry, including 7 in a row.
Yep. 7 in a row. It was a good crowd at the Brick. Over about 2,300 for a Monday night. That's decent. I think that the Bobcats came out ready to go. I mean, from the very start of that game, they were aggressive in all elements. They were after every loose ball. They made it extremely difficult for Montana to get into any kind of offensive flow. Defensively, they were tough. On the offensive end, they were spread. They were making good passes. Montana did make a run in the second quarter, but I'll tell you, Coulter, the dagger was the Sophia Stiles turnover right before the half.
Yep.
That Leah Beatty, amazing steal, led to a 3 by Caitlin Lamardo. At halftime, the game would have been different if the Lady Grizz would have been down 2 versus down 6. So that to me when I'm looking at the first half, and not to just get right into it.
Totally.
I think that's where there was a shift, and then second half, third quarter was all Cats.
And I thought that there was 3 moments like that in which the Montana State team set the tone. Darian White ripped Sophia Stiles on the second possession of the game, went coast to coast for a layup, and that was sort of the beginning of Darian White absolutely dominating that matchup. Sophia Stiles is tough as nails, and she's such a good rebounder off the wing, and she's never going to stop competing. But my goodness, does Darian White have her number? Darian White was wearing her out up and down the court, and I mean, that's not a knock on Stiles as much as it is a true credit to Darian White. When she's healthy, she's second to none. I seriously think that she is so fun to watch. I was watching the game with a couple people that are sort of casual observers, don't follow it as much, and they were like, who's Zero? Who is that? She is an unbelievable athlete, and she is. I mean, she is a top-level athlete. When she has her wind and she has her conditioning right, she's as good as anybody in the league, because it's not just what she can do with the ball in her hands. She just hounds opposing offensive players for 40 minutes. I mean, she can shadow you from coast to coast the entire game.
Right. I mean, 5 assists, so she found some hot hands.
For sure.
Montana State hit shots.
Yep.
Montana did not. And so I think that's also a theme. You know, you always look for themes when you're going into a game.
Yep.
And I thought for sure offensive execution, whoever is going to claim the offensive execution and is going to set the tone, and it's a game of momentum shifts, right, Coulter? So whoever's going to set that tone and make that momentum shift or make that run when it counts. I also thought foul trouble was going to come into play, keeping Cola on the floor. And
Cole Badbury, yeah.
And they didn't experience that. That didn't come down to it as much, although Montana got to the free throw line more than Montana State, but 16 for 28 from the free throw line.
Right.
That's 12 points they left off the table.
Yep. I thought that the first steal by Darian White was sort of a tone setter. You're right. The sequence before the half gave Montana State some momentum after half, but I thought the game completely turned on its head when the Lady Grizz had gotten a bucket, and then it was 48-41, and Sophia Stiles got called for an offensive foul, and you could see she was visibly frustrated, and she was talking to the ref a little bit, and Montana State got a sort of an extended fast break transition off the inbounds. Taylor Jansen hit a 3. Montana State got a stop because the Lady Grizz came down and tried to rush a little bit and were too fast in their offensive possession. Boom, transition again, another Jansen 3. All of a sudden, a game that had never had more than a 6-point deficit, it's a 13-point Montana State lead. And then Lady Grizz sort of melted down for a minute, and all of a sudden it's 21. They did fight back at the end, but I thought that was the sort of the hammer.
Let's talk about Leah Beatty and her leadership. 4 steals. I do think she had 5. There was one that I didn't think that got recorded. Her leadership and her poise, she wasn't in double figures, but close. Timely rebounds. Just timely... She just has a way of involving her teammates, and just her leadership has really grown this year.
Nuanez now ESPN Radio as well as SWX Montana Television. It's Around the Big Sky and Women's Hoops with Krista Redpath. We do this the first hour of each Thursday show here during basketball season. Thanks so much for being with us. It is brought to you by the Missoula Downtown Partnership. It is Downtown Dine Local Week here in Missoula, so go enjoy all the downtown local eateries. That's something that we have been talking about, Krista. It's very fascinating to me, and also affirming to my opinion of coaching and how big of an impact it can have when we analyze things and we scrutinize things, and then those things that were obvious to us improve. That's what we saw. We talked 2 weeks ago about Montana State needing to be more than just Darian White, needing to have certain players or just any players step up and sort of seize those roles. Well, last week, Montana State had 4 home games in 7 days. They won all 4 of them, and I thought that the key was the emergence of KJ Lamardo and Leah Beatty. I almost said Carla Beatty. This is a mistake that I know people around the Big Sky make, because Carla, obviously a great player for the Lady Grizz once upon a time as well. But I thought that the emergence of those two, if they can sustain that level, that's what Montana State has to have.
And I completely agree with you. I had a chance to visit with Coach Binford on Sunday night, and she talked about the investment in that leadership and those 2 players and what they bring to the team. The captains this year are Darian White and Ashley Van Sickle. However, Leah Beatty is finding her way. And sometimes leadership is not the rah, let's get everybody going. It's lead by example.
Yes.
And she's steady in games.
She is, absolutely. And I think you're seeing the maturation of those 2 young ladies, but I also think we had Trisha Binford on the show on Tuesday. And, I've covered Coach Ben for my duration of my time since I moved back to Montana 10 years ago. And so I've gotten to know her very well. I've interviewed her hundreds of times at this point. But just watching her growth as a coach has been so impressive. And I feel like she sort of settled in and found her groove a couple years ago and then has maintained it and continued to grow it. And Ashley Van Sickle is a great example of that. At this day and age in college hoops, it's so easy to leave. It's so easy
throw your name in the transfer portal.
Throw your name in the transfer portal. You're Ashley Van Sickle and you were starting when you were a freshman, and then Darian White comes in and you're not starting anymore. Ashley Van Sickle could have easily left and probably found a place where she could start. But instead, she's bought into her role. As you mentioned, she's a captain. We got a great picture of her and Darian White walking off the court. Ashley Van Sickle's arm around Darian White, telling her, great job that way. And I just thought it was such a telling photo because a lot of times those two wouldn't get along, but they do so wonderfully. And Van Sickle has become an absolute key portion of Montana State's rotation.
Well, and I have to say she played 20 minutes, and when Darian wasn't on the floor, which is not very often, and Ashley Van Sickle and Darian White do overlap at times, 3 assists, 7 points in 20 minutes. If you're Coach Binford, you're so happy with that.
And the other player that I think that is a testament to Binford's patience that she has with players as they go through the ebbs and flows of their career, and that's one thing I think that you would agree with this. Coach Binford, Montana State aside, just broadly, I think one of the things that has is lost in Division I college basketball, men's and women, is the patience for players, and also the fact, just the knowledge that you're going to have ups and downs in your career. It is so rare that you come in and you're an impact player when you're a freshman, and you just linear get better until you're an all-league player when you're a senior. You're going to have the ebbs and flows. It happens so often. And I often think, though, that coaches sometimes shut the door on players, but also players get frustrated and leave. And I just feel like it's this open dynamic that I wish that people would just have more patience, because you might be really good for a stretch in your freshman year and then have a little sophomore slump and then come back around. And like Gabby Mackey is a great example of that. It looked to me like she was not going to have a role at Montana State after her sophomore year. And now here she is. Absolutely, huge contributor for MSU, but I just think that dynamic is something that's sort of lost in college basketball right now.
It's developing a winning culture. And when you mentioned that, I thought to myself, Coulter, 2 players that come to mind. Tori Martell, a player that was developed all along and not lost in the shuffle with stars, but didn't necessarily get her shining moment until her senior season. Blair Braxton, another one, now an assistant coach for Montana State, a player that was developed and came along, ended up actually coming off the bench at times, rotated with Madeline Smith. But you take a look at those types of players that are developed, and then you have to look at Coach Binford. 17th year, she has not had a losing season in the last 14 seasons.
Very impressive the way that she has built this program into absolutely one of the mid-major powers in the region. Montana State is an exceptional program. And, the proof is in the pudding. 10 out of your last 11 against your rival, 12 out of your last 14. Got in for your 4th Big Sky title in the last 6 years. Continuing to recruit elite talent like Darian White, and then also being able to put the pieces around her. It's a true credit to Coach Binford, and I think that it's what makes this Montana State team fun to cover. And I think you can see it within them, too. That's one of the things that stands out so much is how much fun they have.
Well, and sure, and Coach Binford even alluded to the beginning of the season going 7 deep and now relying more on their depth. You're going to take a look at the minutes and various players that did get those minutes. Taylor Jansen, 12 points, 4 for 4 from the 3-point line. She's just been coming off the bench, getting 15 minutes a game. But because of Coach Binford's commitment to that depth, you're seeing players like that were key minutes last year, some minutes this year, come in and make big plays when it counts.
Nuanez now ESPN Radio as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Coulter Nuanez. Krista Redpath joining me in studio. It's Around the Big Sky in Women's Hoops with Krista Redpath, presented in part by the Missoula Downtown Partnership. You want to know what's going on in downtown Missoula? Anytime. Dine Local Week or anytime period. Missoula Downtown Partnership, which is partners with the Missoula Downtown Association. They have a wonderful website that has any and everything going on in downtown. You can get gift cards to a variety of different places in downtown Missoula. All you have to do is go to MissoulaDowntown.com. Check out all of the happenings here in the Garden City. Let's talk a little bit about the Lady Grizz, because one of Bobby Houck's famous lines, Montana football coach, is if you're going 100 miles per hour but you're going in the wrong direction, you're just going in the wrong direction. Montana played very hard on Monday night. They scrapped and they stayed in the game for about 25 minutes. But it was almost like an inevitable scenario where you could see that they were going to break, because it seemed like they were so much tighter mentally than Montana State. Taylor Jansen and Darian White both talked about it in the post-game press conference. They said, we were so excited for this game that we were just loose. Coach Binford actually said that on the show on Tuesday, too. She said, maybe we should just treat these young ladies like pros, because we didn't do a single drill or anything. All we did was watch film and have a walkthrough because we were so tired coming off of Saturday, having played 3 games in 5 days. So they just kind of rolled the ball out there and let it roll. But, I mean, how much of that plays into it? Because I do think there was just a distinctly different level of relaxation and or tightness if you're the Lady Grizz coming into this game.
I knew what type of team Coach Binford would put on the floor.
Yeah.
I've seen it often. I've called many games. I wasn't sure about Montana, given the experience and what we've seen in the last rivalry games. And it's hard to go into the brick and
For
play
sure.
Montana State.
I mean, Montana State is 50-10 at home over the last 6 seasons. So they are really, really, really good at home.
But you look at Montana, and they have, I mean, they're definitely one of the top teams in the league. I mean,
No question.
These two teams battling, there were so many bright spots where you could just see players, where you could just see excellence on both sides of the ball. And so I know we've talked a lot about Montana State, but if you're Montana, where do you go from here, Coulter? You've got over 35 days left to go to Boise. You have to try to wipe this out of your memory at this point and continue to move forward. They won 3 games before this game.
Right.
So there's a lot to be celebrating or looking at or trying to build off of.
Totally.
That win against NAU was tough. And, you know, we're talking about one of the strongest offensive teams in the league.
For sure.
And Montana did a very good job shutting them down.
Brian Holsinger has talked about it on the show a couple times, in that it seems like there's the Lady Grizz sometimes revert to old bad habits when things get tight. And he talked about that after the road trip to Idaho State and Weber State, when the Lady Grizz got swept. And he also talked about it after the game on Monday, excuse me. Just that sometimes when things get tight, it seems as if they sort of revert to where they were. And Sammy Fakin had a great individual performance on Monday against Montana State. She had 24 points. I love the way that she plays basketball. I mean, she just floats so smooth and seamlessly. It just seems like such a natural. But her 24 points, I think, is a double-edged sword, because while she did carry the offense, I also think that she's at her best when she's slashing, distributing, and then sometimes shooting it, but oftentimes getting everybody else involved. I thought she kind of tried to take over the game, which is fine if you need it, but I felt like that was sort of an example of pressing a little bit.
Well, when you take a look at shot selection, Carmen Giefiller had 4 shots. That's not okay.
I know, and I said on this exact segment last Thursday that I thought Carmen Giefiller, when at her best, was the most unstoppable offensive player in the league. Great job by Montana State to limit her like that, but also, like you're saying, you have to find a way to get Carmen Giefiller 10 or 12 shots. You have to.
You have to. And I do credit Montana State, because that was part of their plan, is to try to limit. I think they thought, well, the ball's going to be in Sophia's hands. Let's take away that first step, dribble penetration, make her have to earn it, shoot it, score it. But from there, we need to limit touches for Carmen Giefiller, and they did that. Carmen had 6 points. She had 5 points and 3 rebounds. Just really struggled down low, hitting Carmen.
The other mental part that I thought was interesting, and this was just sort of me analyzing what everybody was talking about after the game, is that this rivalry, so much of it, first of all, this year's versions of the Cat Grizz rivalry have been so weird, because usually one of the keys for everybody involved is mitigating the hype. There's going to be so much hype coming into the games. Well, the men's game had so much hype taken away, first with the women's game getting postponed or rescheduled, then with the men's game getting moved to a Sunday evening in Bozeman, then with Montana State's football team stealing everybody's thunder and being the only thing that everybody in Montana was paying attention to for that weekend. So they sort of mitigated the hype. This scenario on Monday, there was no time. I mean, there was no interview opportunities or anything for us to talk about any of this stuff because they had multiple games to be played.
Thursday, Saturday, Monday.
That's right.
I mean, I messaged Coach Binford and Coach Holsinger on Sunday and said, can we visit tonight? And actually, they appreciated not having to talk about Bobcat Grizz before that day.
Right.
Because they had NAU and Portland State on their mind.
Right. Totally. But then the thing that struck me, though, was being familiar with the rivalry, being comfortable in the rivalry, knowing what the rivalry is going to hold. The Lady Grizz, most of the players, actually, in fact, all of the players on the team, the only familiarity they have with this rivalry is losing to Montana State.
No one has been part of a win other than Sophia Stiles and Abby Anderson.
That's right.
Redshirt year, injury year, they were on the bench.
That's right. And so it's almost like commonplace. And I just wonder how much of a factor that plays. I just wonder if there's a lack of a sense of belief. It's almost like I shouldn't say it's expected, but that's just been what the status quo has been for Montana against Montana State recently.
It's hard to put your finger on that one, being someone who I didn't lose to the Cats.
Right.
So possibly the other way, right?
Totally.
But sometimes we went into the brick and we were like, we got to get out of here without losing. You almost have to hate to lose more than you want to win, Coulter. And I know that could sound contradicting.
But that makes absolute sense. I mean, that's the Robin Selvig special, right? He hated to lose, and he would always figure out a way to win, no matter how ugly or dirty it possibly could be.
We would pull up to the Brick Breeden, and we would park that bus 1 foot away from the brick. We would go in and do what we needed to do and get out of Bozeman. That's exactly what went down.
Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Coulter Nuanez. Krista Redpath joining me in studio around the Big Sky and women's hoops. We are broadcasting to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. Appreciate you being here on a Thursday. Last thing on this rivalry game, Krista, the football version of it has become Montana's Super Bowl because it's at the end of the season. And I think there's a lot of great things that come with that. I also think there's a lot of detrimental things that come with it, just in terms of national playoff pictures, sort of the build up to it, sort of the overhype, some of the vitriol that comes with it. But often it is this end-all, be-all in football. And even if both teams are going to the playoffs, how do you bounce back if you lose it? How do you not get too big of a head if you win it? All those things. In hoops, it's a big deal, but you still have half the conference season left. So I think that's the main factor when it comes to this rivalry game in hoops, especially the first round. No matter if you win or lose, you cannot let it affect you moving forward, right?
Right, and there's another game. There's another rivalry game. There's a part 2, February 26th.
Right. You get to run it back.
Missoula, and I'm telling you, it will be a different game.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the other part that's so cool about especially the women's rivalry is, I mean, the men Grizz and the men Cats draw really well, but they're not utterly peerless in the way that they draw amongst their league members. Weber State draws pretty well. Now Portland State has a new arena, so they get some good fans. You know, even though Idaho State hasn't been great lately, they still have a pretty good following in men's hoops. In women's hoops, it is peerless, the amount of fans that they get. And that's what's so cool is it is so tough to play in the brick. It's also so tough to play at Dahlberg Arena. And so the home court in this rivalry, it goes back and forth, and that's one of the main factors in it.
Very exciting for the state of Montana.
We're going to talk about the weekend that was outside of the rivalry game, plus some of the results from Monday. Take a look at the standings and diagnose some scenarios for some of the top 5 teams, because I do think we're getting a little bit of separation here in the league as we enter February. Nuanez Now around the Big Sky. Women's hoops with Krista Redpath. Keep it right here. ESPN Radio. Back after this. Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires, introducing the new Backcountry AT2 for a quieter ride with improved performance in wet conditions. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe on the road this winter, the right tires help you feel prepared for anything.
Mom? Mom? Hey, Mom.
Well, almost anything. Plus, save up to $130 when you buy Quatrack tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
Hey, it's Colter Nuanez from Nuanez. Now I'm here with Brent Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate. And Brent, you guys have been the official realtors of Grizz Athletics for quite some time. What most do you like about supporting the Grizz in Missoula?
Born and raised here in Missoula. I grew up 2 blocks off campus. A lot of us Montana kids were growing up on weekends in the fall. You're out in the woods hunting. I was sitting in dorm blazer and then watched in Grizzly Stadium watching the Grizz. I grew up with Grizz in my blood. It's just a wonderful part of our community and happy to be a part of it.
Give the Wahlberg team a call today, 529-4663.
Papa, what happened to the TV?
Cable prices went through the roof. I had to dump the cable.
All you had to do was call Eagle Satellite at 406-728-9999 and get Dish TV for $57.99 and internet for $50.
Okay, I will. 406-728-9999. Can I get Dish TV for $57.99 and internet for $50? And it's installed free? Fantastic.
Call Eagle Satellite 728-9999.
Offer expires 4/13/22. Internet not a Dish product. Price does not include locals. Antenna optional.
Choosing where to bank is a no-brainer. Choose the bank that's been helping Western Montana grow since 1907. Choose Farmer State Bank. We have a lot more to offer than just history. Count on Farmer State Bank for innovative traditional, mobile, and online products designed to meet your needs. For personal banking options or business solutions, choose Farmer State Bank. 9 brick-and-mortar locations and online at farmersebank.com. An equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Montana brings a variety of reasons to get outdoors. Gear up at Bob Ward's Sports and Outdoors, Montana's largest sporting goods retailer. For over 105 years, Bob Ward's has been committed to providing outstanding customer service, merchandise selection, and value. Bob Ward's has every brand and everything you need to run, climb, hunt, hike, camp, fish, ski, paddle, everything you do outdoors. Open 7 days a week in Missoula, Bozeman, Butte, Helena, and Hamilton. Or online 24/7 at bobwards.com. Gear up at Bob Ward's, a Montana tradition of adventure since 1917.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Big Sky Conference men's basketball teams return to the Treasure State for the first time in more than 2 weeks starting tonight. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. In Missoula, the Montana Grizzlies play their first home game since New Year's Day with Idaho coming to town. The last time UM took the court at Dahlberg Arena, the Grizz posted a 74-72 win over Weber State. UM has won 4 of 5 since Big Sky play re-engaged on December 30th, including sweeping Portland State and Northern Arizona on the road last week. The Vandals lost 6 straight games to start the new year, but beat Portland State on Monday for their second straight win. The victories over PSU and Sac State marked the first 2-game winning streak over Division I opponents since March of 2018 for the Vandals. The Grizzlies eliminated Idaho in the Big Sky tournament last spring. In Bozeman, Montana State's men host Eastern Washington on Thursday in their first home game since beating the Grizz 66-59 on January 9th. The Bobcats have won 9 out of 10, including 5 in a row after last week's road sweep. EWU, the defending Big Sky champions, sit at 5-3 in league play despite the departure of head coach Shante Leggins and 8 Eastern players in the offseason, including Tanner Groves, last season's league MVP. The Montana State women play at EWU tonight, and the Lady Grizz play in Cheney on Saturday. MSU and UM's games against the Idaho women were postponed due to COVID-19 protocols.
This 102.9 ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Bet you didn't expect to hear a little Raspberry Beret, a little Prince for you on your Thursday afternoon.
Did I give you a heads up on that one?
You did. Well, I was searching through our text thread because I had once upon a time asked you all the music that you liked. And
Love Prince.
I know you do, so that's why I catered it just for you. Chris Redpath in studio with me, Colter Nuanez. It's Nuanez Now. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on your Thursday. ESPN Radio coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport studio. Northwest Motorsport has got an anniversary celebration going on until the end of this week. So you can check out their lot. They have all sorts of huge discounts. Corner of Stevens and Mount here in Missoula. Or you can check out the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest online at nwmsrocks.com. That's nwmsrocks.com. Speaking of anniversaries, it is our 10th anniversary here at ESPN Missoula next month. So cool for us. I've been along for the ride for about half the time, but we will be doing a 10th anniversary celebration that's going to include some interviews with a bunch of people that helped bring this thing to fruition, sort of created it from the ground up. People like Ryan Tutel, my former co-host, Tucker Sargent, former co-host of the show, Tommy Evans, the man who built it all up as the main engineer here at Missoula Broadcasting Company. Maybe even hear from some of the old guard, too, guys like Dave Cowan, former GM here at Missoula Broadcasting Company. And every Wednesday, 10 wings every 10 minutes for the whole Wednesday show. How about that? You're used to winning wings from the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill every Wednesday here on Nuanez now. Well, how about we give you 6 times the amount of chances to win? Every 10 minutes for all 2 hours every Wednesday during February, we're going to give you a chance to win 10 wings from the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. So stay tuned for that. Very excited for that and very excited for our 10th anniversary celebration. It's like we made this thing happen. It's a real deal. We got a real ESPN station in Montana. Pretty cool. Around the Big Sky Women's Hoops, Krista Redpath in studio with me, Colter Nuanez. This week, our presenting sponsor, the Missoula Downtown Partnership. The Downtown Missoula Partnership wants you to get your taste buds ready. Downtown Dine Local Week is here, January 24th through the 30th. From burgers to brunch, coffee to cocktails, Downtown Missoula's restaurants have it all. Dine in, get takeout, order delivery, no matter how you dine. Missoula's Eats, Treats, and Drinks will feed your soul and fill your neighborhood. More info on Downtown Dine Local Week available at MissoulaDowntown.com. What'd you say, 35 days away from Boise? Is that all?
Very close.
Very close. Well, the Big Sky Tournament will be in Boise once again. It's a very fun event. If you've never been, I suggest you go. If you have been, I know you're going to probably want to go back. We have 2 passes for you in association with Skyline Sports, SkylineSportsMT.com, as well as the Big Sky Conference. All you have to do is text and or tweet us, Big Sky in Boise. You can tweet us at 1029ESPN, at Skyline Sports MT, or at Krista Redpath, or you can text us, 406-888-1029. That's 406-888-1029 to send us Big Sky in Boise or any thoughts about the tournament. I don't know, just engage with us. Hit us up. Let us know what you think. We got a pair of passes. We'll be giving those away the first week of March, so very much looking forward to it. With Boise now, 35 days away, the league race is getting pretty tight, not only because of the logjam at the top of the league, but also because of all these crazy postponements. Again, if you missed the news, the Lady Grizz game in Cheney, scheduled for Saturday, has been called off because of COVID issues within the Montana program. Idaho also has COVID issues, so that means the Lady Grizz won't play Idaho tonight, won't play Eastern on Saturday, so they'll get some rest coming off of 3 games in 5 days over the weekend. But I think that we're one postponement away from critical mass. We're going to run out of Mondays. It's going to go from postponed to canceled here very quickly.
Well, and it does get to a point where every team does go to the tournament. So you have to look at it that way. What are we doing in order to make these games up? They are student athletes. And I do think about that time when I was playing. It's very challenging to have these Monday games. And now Tuesday, Montana's going to play Idaho on a Tuesday. I think that's challenging for all schools. I'm not saying just Montana, Montana State. Across the board in the Big Sky, if you look at any of these teams, there are scenarios that put them on the road for 3 games in a row or 7 games in 14 days,
right.
Things like that, where your body just starts to wear mentally and physically.
You're a former athlete. I think that one thing that gets lost on people, too, is it's not necessarily just the objective wear and tear. It's also so much of the rhythm of college athletics is routine, right? Mm-hmm. That's where I think they get thrown into a state of disarray, is not just the physical stuff, but the mental stuff. You're so scheduled and regimented, and then all of a sudden your schedule changes and you just don't know what to do, right?
I think that this generation is just flexible because of COVID at this point. You just throw so much at them. I mean, last year, having to play 2 teams and do them in one city at a time, and having things abruptly changed and veered off one direction, I think that you'll see that these teams are like, hey, the only thing we can control is what's in front of us. And that's what we're seeing within these Big Sky schools.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember talking to the football guys, just how much it would just get disrupted. They'd have, winter conditioning session. Nope, that's called off. Okay, we got a weightlifting block. Nope, now we got to go lift with just 2 other guys because we can't lift as a team. So I do think the disruption of routine, although this generation is flexible, I do think it is hard on the mentality of the kids for sure. Let's talk about some of the games that happened over the last several days, because we had games Thursday, Saturday, Monday, and then also today on a Tuesday. Northern Colorado beat Weber State today, so that's 6 losses in a row for Weber. So they're sort of in a tailspin. We'll see if they can then pull themselves out of that. But a couple of the impactful results from over the weekend. Speaking of Northern Colorado, they lost a pair of close ones to Idaho and Southern Utah, but they did beat Weber State today. Northern Colorado remains sort of mysterious to me because they lost so much in the offseason. League MVP Alicia Davis transferred out. A couple other of their Jasmine Gale's out, right? Alicia White transferred out as well. And then, of course, their coach also left. Jenny Huth resigned abruptly, which was still such a mysterious situation to me. But where are we at with Northern Colorado? Because they did get a win today.
Right. Well, I take a look at Northern Colorado. They're a team, Kristen Mattio's in her first year. She's trying to find who is going to be her players to turn to. I mean, she spent 2 seasons, as a top assistant under Mark Kellogg, where there's the Montana State connection. So there are all these Montana connections. But I think the jury's still out on Northern Colorado. Only 1 conference win.
Yeah.
And you take a look at the standings, Coulter, and there are, Idaho, Weber State, Eastern, Northern Colorado, and Portland State without winning records.
Yeah.
And so I don't have enough to say about Northern Colorado yet in terms of where they're going to fall, but they've got to start getting a couple wins if they want to creep up in the standings.
Also, when you talk about the teams with below 500 records in the Big Sky so far, the only one that actually really surprises me is Idaho. Idaho, they lost in overtime to Sac State, and they just can't find the mark. Meanwhile, though, Sac State won 3 games last week. And Sac State might be actually, I guess, they've won 4 in a row now. They might be the surprise in the league. They're sitting there at 4-4 in Mark Campbell's first season. It was a tough start to the Mark Campbell era there at Sac State, but they've somewhat turned the corner.
Well, you take a look at Isnell Nadabo, back-to-back player of the week for the Big Sky Conference.
What's her backstory? Is she a transfer?
She is 6'5" freshman from the Czech Republic.
Wow, okay.
She averaged 15 points, 15 rebounds over those games. But Coulter, what was the most impressive, she shot 75% from the floor and 75% from the free throw line.
Very impressive, especially for a young lady of that size.
For a big underneath, right?
Totally.
And then, you got Liliana Tillman, who's also the leading scorer for the Big Sky. She's been bringing a good presence to Sac State. I think that we'll see how they progress. They're going to enter a pretty difficult stretch of their schedule. But anytime you can build off of momentum of those wins, 4 wins for them is huge for this program.
One of the most eye-opening results around the Big Sky Women's Hoops with Krista Redpath here on Nuanez now. One of the most eye-opening results of the last week or so in the Big Sky was not that Idaho State beat Southern Utah, but what was that Idaho State drilled Southern Utah. They beat them 80-60, and that was Southern Utah's first conference loss. And Idaho State just keeps humming right along. We're going to get to them in the next segment here because they are certainly among the contenders, absolutely the favorite. Seton Sobolewski's doing a great job. He always has been, but this is a dynamite team. They have not been at full strength yet so far this year yet. They continue to just absolutely roll. But I want to talk about Southern Utah real quick before we take a break. SUU is 6-1 in league. They're sitting there right alone in second place. Their best wins, though, in the league are over Northern Arizona. It's a good win. And then Idaho and Weber State, and both of those don't look as good as when they happened, because when they happened, both those teams not necessarily struggling as much as they are right now. But Southern Utah got waxed by Idaho State earlier this week, and they haven't played the Montana schools. So is it still prove-it territory for Southern Utah, or are we believing in Southern Utah?
I'm believing in Southern Utah.
I mean, Tracy Saunders is a really good coach.
Tracy Sanders, Hall of Famer for St. Mary's, spent 12 seasons there on staff before she made the move to Southern Utah. She's starting 3 sophomores this year. When you take a look at that, 3 sophomores with 2 seniors, it's a pretty interesting youth mixed with just consistency with your leaders. And it's just been interesting to see. I love the way Sherrod Daugherty plays. I liked her from the very beginning. I have always said this all along. She could have been a preseason first-team selection. But also, you got to talk about Lizzie Williamson down low. And we've mentioned her before.
Totally.
There's size. So Dari Dotson, who was Dari Franson last year, so I'm assuming there was a marriage there,
something, yes, certainly.
A name change. But she's got height, too, at over 6 feet. They're long, Coulter. They're long. They're strong. They have dominant guard play. I definitely think Southern Utah is going to be in the mix this year.
Around the Big Sky Women's Hoops with Krista Redpath, proudly presented this week by the Missoula Downtown Partnership. Get your taste buds ready, Missoula. It's Downtown Dine Local Week. From burgers to brunch, tacos to teriyaki, coffee to cocktails. Downtown Missoula restaurants, they have it all. Feed your soul and fuel your neighborhood. It's brought to you by the Missoula Downtown Partnership. Visit MissoulaDowntown.com for more information. Where are we at with some of the main contenders in the league, including the Bobcats, the Grizzlies, and especially the league-leading Idaho State Bengals? We'll tell you more. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. If you're a gun enthusiast, you already know firearms and ammunition are as hard to come by these days as ever. Stay up to date with all the inventory both in-house and online at Selway Armory by signing up for Selway's newsletter. The Selway Armory newsletter will not only provide you updates on what's in stock at 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6. Signing up for the newsletter will also enter you for a chance to win free ammunition. And remember, even if the Selway warehouse doesn't have it in stock, you can always check out SelwayArmory.com. Selway Armory, your local firearms expert.
The football playoffs are finally here. Time to get off the sidelines and into the all-new Turf Club Sportsbook. Straight bets, prop bets, parlays, and more. All in a modern game day lounge with plush recliners, food, and drink service. Don't just watch the games, get your piece of the action. Grab a few friends and huddle up now at Turf Club Sportsbook, the ultimate game changer. Only at Northern Quest.
Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys. Part of the glory of building a business comes from leaving a legacy to ensure your business continues thriving into the future. Have you asked yourself lately, what is your plan? Forming a personalized business succession plan is essential to know the passion you put into your business will carry on. Nick Tabor at Westpac Wealth is here to help you navigate all your business succession and retirement planning needs. Give Nick a call at 728-6699 and keep the spirit of possibility vibrant while making your future more tax efficient with a personalized business succession and retirement plan for you. Jake Dubeck knows people, and because of his gift of getting to know anyone he crosses paths with, Jake Dubeck understands what makes Montana so great. The Montanans. Whether you're looking to buy or sell real estate in the Helena area, Jake Dubeck should be your first call. Any questions you might have, from the accelerating Montana real estate market to knowledge of the neighborhoods in and around the capital city, if you're in the Helena area, call Jake Dubeck at 406-465-5506. Jake, proud supporter of the Montana State Minute with Danny Sprinkle.
When a sudden, unexpected emergency happens near you, how will you find out about it? Will you get critical information in time to warn your family and keep them safe? Smart 911 is how Missoula County emergency response officials send emergency alerts that you need to know about. In order to receive alerts on your mobile device, you need to sign up at smart911.com. Plan ahead and protect your family with Smart 911. Learn more and sign up for emergency alerts at smart911.com.
It's Nuanez now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
So divine, hello, remember, baby, all the while my fortune faded. Never mind the consequences of the crime. This time my fortune faded.
What up, Montana? Welcome back. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Want to hit the slopes? Great snow right now up at Lost Trail. They're open Thursdays through Mondays, 9:30 until 4 p.m. Plenty of more powder in store. Easy to find out all the information, from ski lessons to small group training to anything else. Snow conditions, all that. Go to losttrail.com. Lost Trail. Go for the snow. It's a Thursday, so that means we are marching through around the Big Sky Women's Hoops with Krista Redpath. Krista, our Big Sky Conference insider, joining us here in the Northwest Motorsports studio, talking all the way around the Big Sky Conference. There's supposed to be multiple games for the Montana schools tonight, but just one tonight because Montana State plays at Eastern Washington. The Montana game against Idaho called off, as was the Montana at Eastern game on Saturday. First, it was Idaho with COVID issues. Then it was the Lady Grizz, so no games for Lady Grizz this weekend. But Montana State, they do have the one game tonight in Cheney. Crystal, let's talk a little bit about some of the contenders and scenarios right now in the Big Sky Conference, because when you look at the standings, Idaho State out in front of everybody at 8-1 in the league. Southern Utah sitting there at 6-1. The Bobcats absolutely turned the corner last week after taking a 16-day break. They won 4 games in 7 days, so they sit alone in third place at 6-2. Montana, after the rivalry loss, sits there at 5-3, tied with Northern Arizona, but they do have a tiebreaker because they beat NAU previously in the weekend. So those are sort of, to me, the cut and dry top 5. And still, though, even when I look at all those, I think Southern Utah, Montana State, Montana, Northern Arizona, all very good. But I still think that Idaho State, who are the reigning champions, Steve Sobolewski's doing a heck of a job right now.
We're going to talk about them? Let's do it, Coulter. Let's talk about Idaho State. It's really interesting to look at them because they have a core group that we know and we've talked about. I like the entire starting 5 down to like 6 or 7. Callie Bourne is not with the team right now. She's injured. We don't know what's going on with her. We don't know if she'll come back.
The Draymond Green of the Big Sky Conference. Miss watching her play.
Love that play.
I think she's one of the greatest players in the league. I miss watching her play for sure.
And we also have the fact that Diaba Kanante did not come back until the 21st of December and didn't actually get into the starting lineup until January.
Right.
So we have Diaba that comes on, okay, and then now we have Dora Golish, who is still not back in the starting lineup yet. She's giving them really good minutes, and 26 minutes, double figures against Southern Utah. But my argument is they've won 10 straight, and they haven't even been at full strength.
Yeah.
Now, Tamika Whitman has played incredible this year.
Yeah, and you could see that coming because she was definitely a rising, a potential breakout player coming out of last year.
She was, but she wasn't necessarily getting all the minutes.
Totally.
They had, and no one left other than Delaney Moore, who's on staff.
Yep,
so really, they haven't lost anyone. Ellie Smith giving good minutes. Steffi Orrs. I mean, she is just an incredible player, and it's so. I was reading back in my notes in the 2016-2017 tournament. That was the emergence of a Steffi Orrs.
Right.
And I'm going, okay, it's 2022.
Right.
She is continuing to climb the record books in all areas.
Is there a more crafty scorer in the Big Sky? She
love the way she plays.
She's not necessarily that exceptional athletically. Her skill set is unbelievable. I mean, she's scoring at such an efficient level. She had like 25 on 10 shots the other night.
It's just so impressive. And so it's just interesting to see this, and I can't wait to be on the call next week, Idaho State at Montana State, and to get to talk to Coach Sobolewski and get to see these players in person and find out what's going on with Callie. Hopefully she'll be back. You hope that everything's fine.
Sounds like inside info coming from the guys in the back. Sounds like she could be back relatively soon. So not out for the year at least. So maybe expected to be back at sometime.
But if you're Coach Sobolewski, don't you think you're happy with where you're at, Coulter?
Oh, for sure.
Winning 10 games and having a weird season in terms of injuries and not being able to have a cohesive starting lineup. It's been changing for him ever since the beginning of the year. And you hope that you keep your veteran guards in the mix, and he hasn't had both of them together, Diaba Kanante or Dora Golish together.
There's such a parallel to me between Seton Sobolewski and Tricia Binford in the detail of when you finally find the sweet spot of what your coaching style and your personality is like, and then recruiting players that react to that. Tricia Binford's players are very much an extension of her. She's a very pleasant and calm.
Well, Darian's an extension of her.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Darian White absolutely is a great extension of Tricia Binford, but they play very much like Tricia Binford's personality is, and that's sort of the sweet spot. Seton Sobolewski had a little bit of a tough time in the early and middle part of his career because he is such a hard-nosed coach. And a lot of times that would have players that would kind of go away from that. They didn't like it, or they would leave, or they wouldn't respond to it. Now he's got this international flavor. I mean, I did a Zoom last year with Callie Bourne and Dora Golish, and they're like, we love it. We love when Coach Sobo's getting on us. Like, this is the international flavor that we're used to. We're used to coaches, yelling and being hard on us. And I think that's why I think that they haven't missed a beat, even though they've had a couple of the best players in the league miss time.
Right, and it's not always pretty.
Yeah.
We've talked about this on the air. It's a defensive-minded team,
Totally.
which is similar to now what we were seeing with Montana again. We're seeing Coach Hulsinger really return to the roots of the defensive play. But Idaho State just grinds it out, and they find a way. And since we've moved this tournament to a neutral site, the Big Sky, Idaho State has been in the mix every year for 3 years at Reno.
Yep.
Now our 4th year in Boise. They have been there year after year.
Absolutely. Next week, that's a Thursday game, right?
It is Thursday.
So Idaho State at Montana State. Crystal will be on the call, SWX Montana Television. And I actually love that matchup too, though, because for those that don't follow it maybe as heavily, the best rivalry or the most visible rivalry in the Big Sky is always going to be the Cats and the Grizz. But Idaho State, Montana State is a phenomenal rivalry. Some of the best women's basketball games I've covered over the last 10 years have been between Idaho State and Montana State. There's the epic overtime game that the Bobcats won to sew up the Big Sky title when Peyton Ferris was a senior. You know, there's the heartbreaker in
Memory
Reno.
lane here,
I mean,
Coulter.
there was the heartbreaker when Juliette Jones hit a three-quarter court buzzer beater to beat the top-seeded Bobcats. One of the most shocked I have ever been covering a sporting event. And on and on and on. They've had some all-time classics when they square off.
That call that I was on with Steve Klauke, we were silent. When that number 9 seed beats
Right.
Montana, it was just shocking.
It was absolutely shocking. It was at the same time the most exuberant I've seen a group of people at a postgame press conference, and the most devastated. I've never felt more bad for an athlete than Jasmine Hamas sitting in front of the press having to talk. It was brutal. It was horrible because she was so disappointed. But that's sports. The agony and the ecstasy is what makes it so great.
And then you talk about Idaho.
Right.
They had come back into the Big Sky, right? So they won the WAC the year before.
Yep.
They're back-to-back NCAA appearances. So then you talk about that is where John Newley was on the rise.
question.
So you could just play off of this with all of these coaches.
Oh, that first quarterfinal day of the first year in Reno was the single craziest day of basketball I've ever watched. Idaho and Weber State each hit buzzer beaters to send it to an overtime and then a second overtime, and then Idaho ended up winning on a buzzer beater. Crazy. That was after the half-court heave that beat Montana State. That was one of the most wild days of basketball I've ever seen. Full slate of games in the Big Sky tonight. Northern Colorado at Weber State. Northern Colorado coming off of their, I guess, second conference win earlier this week. Weber State's lost 6 in a row. This is a big game for Weber State if they want to halt sort of the bleeding that's going on right now down in Ogden.
Well, in Weber State, there was a lot of talk about them in terms of, and we've talked about them. Darren Hickok, I think, has played great. There's been some play that's really stood out. I think the week that they played Montana and Montana State was very brutal for the Montana schools.
Yep.
We also have to think back. There were some crazy storms in Montana, and so players couldn't get into practice either in Bozeman or Missoula.
Right. Because everybody was coming back from Christmas break.
Everyone was coming back from Christmas break. It's just a brutal week to travel.
Yeah.
And so you wonder if Weber State just happened to catch them when both of those teams were down. Remember, without Sophia Stiles, without Darian White, for one of the 2 games. And so I don't want to point too much of a picture, but Weber State just hasn't quite found their stride since then. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond in the second half of conference.
Portland State at Southern Utah. Portland State still looking for their first conference win. Southern Utah coming off of their first conference loss against Idaho State. Portland State, they're playing 3 freshmen in the starting lineup. It's a rebuild for sure with Chelsea Gregg at the helm. So they will get better, but I do think that Southern Utah probably has an upper hand in that matchup. Sac State, red hot right now, but they have to play in Pocatello tonight. That'll be a prove-it game for them, but also Idaho State just chugging right along, the juggernaut in the league right now. But last thoughts here, Krista, for the Montana schools. Montana State, the only one of the 2 Montana women's basketball teams playing tonight. They play at Eastern Washington. What are your thoughts on the matchup in Cheney?
Well, I really like the play of Jadia Martin and Jacinda Buckley. Those 2 players, Jadia she started all 18 games. She's a Washington product from Vancouver. Jacinda Buckley is a sophomore. Jadia is a freshman. And so when I look at that, and then I just keep wondering when Aaliyah Alexander is going to come back, because she was one of my favorite players in the league last year as a freshman. She started all 21 games, averaged almost 11 points a game, just a dynamic, fun player. So when I look at Eastern Washington, there are some pieces. I think if you're first-year head coach Jody Gleason, you're trying to put those pieces together to try to string through some good basketball where you can cohesively put together 4 quarters. So that's going to be the question mark against a veteran team like Montana State that is playing their best basketball of the year. It'll be interesting to see this evening.
I think it's a big game for Montana State, too, because it was a huge turning point for them to win 4 games in 7 days. And they're taking on an Eastern team that's only 2-7 in league play. Yet, there's a huge chance for a letdown coming off a rivalry game, and just not even a letdown from a mental perspective, just from a physical perspective. That's a lot of basketball. So I do think if Montana State can figure out a way to get one out in Cheney, then they'll get a welcome break, not having to play on Saturday with the Idaho game getting canceled. So I think it is. It's important for Montana State to carry the momentum of what was the best week of their season so far.
Right, and then regroup and get ready for Idaho State. So you're absolutely right, Coulter. This will be an interesting matchup this evening.
Around the Big Sky Women's Hoops with Krista Redpath. We do this each first hour of Thursday's shows for the duration of basketball season. The presenting sponsor this week, the Downtown Missoula Partnership. Downtown Missoula Partnership wants you to get your taste buds ready. Downtown Dine Local Week is here, January 24th through the 30th. From burgers to brunch, coffee to cocktails, Downtown Missoula restaurants have it all. You can dine in, take out, order delivery. No matter how you dine, Missoula's Eats, Treats, and Drinks will feed your soul and fuel your neighborhood. More info on Downtown Dine Local Week available at MissoulaDowntown.com. Krista, thank you so much for being here. Wonderful to see you.
Thank you, Coulter.
Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming at you. How about a little men's hoops action? We got the Montana schools back at home for the first time in weeks. Our takes on the Big Sky Conference. Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com, swinging by. Keep it right here. Back after this. Buying or selling a home can be an intimidating task. Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team of Windermere Real Estate are here to make you feel comfortable no matter where you're at in the process. The official realtors of Grizzly Athletics have more than 4 decades of experience in Western Montana. Brent and his team can not only find you your perfect home or buyer, but they can also teach you about the great city of Missoula and its tradition-laden sports teams. The Wahlberg team works as a family to help fulfill your real estate needs all over Western Montana. If you need help with residential, land, investment, or commercial, give Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team a call today. Whether you're in the restaurant business or you just want to host any big event, J&V Restaurant Supply can make sure you have everything you need. J&V Restaurant Supply is your home for everything kitchen. Whether you're a bear or a bobcat, an eagle or a Scotty, J&V Restaurant has everything you might need. They have locations in Bozeman, Billings, and Great Falls. If you can't make it in, J&V also has a great website, jvrestaurant.com. Get everything you need for your next event at J&V, your restaurant specialists.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Florence Coffee Chai satisfies just right when the winter months come to Montana. Black tea with spices, steamed milk, and a touch of sweet combine into a soothing, full-bodied blend. Whether it's spiced, vanilla, chocolate, apple, or even no sugar-added vanilla, we have a chai waiting for you at any Florence Coffee location. And be sure to visit us at FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
When you look up in the rafters at Dahlberg Arena, you see dozens and dozens of championship banners. The Montana Grizz and Lady Grizz basketball teams have some of the best tradition of any mid-major programs in the United States. At Nuanez Now, your favorite daily sports talk show, we are proud to introduce our Grizz Star of the Week Hoops Edition. Tune in each Wednesday for an exclusive interview with men and women's basketball players from the University of Montana, and be sure to keep it tuned for your chance to win tickets to home games each and every week.
Before I came here, I always hated defense. I didn't play a lot of defense back home in Australia. But then, as I've kind of, the last couple of years, defense has become a lot more fun to me. I think the idea of 5 guys just being able to, you're just sort of imposing your will on the other team if you don't let them score, and you can just dominate a game that way. And I think it's just so frustrating for them, and seeing that frustration and being able to come together, a group of guys, and just doing that is super exciting and it's fun.
A Grizz Star of the Week is proudly presented by Bob Ward Sports and Outdoors. Tune in each Wednesday to hear the Grizz Star of the Week on Nuanez Now.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Big Sky Conference men's basketball teams return to the Treasure State for the first time in more than 2 weeks starting tonight. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. In Missoula, the Montana Grizzlies play their first home game since New Year's Day, with Idaho coming to town. The last time UM took the court at Dahlberg Arena, the Grizz posted a 74-72 win over Weber State. UM has won 4 of 5 since Big Sky play re-engaged on December 30th, including sweeping Portland State and Northern Arizona on the road last week. The Vandals lost 6 straight games to start the new year, but beat Portland State on Monday for their second straight win. The victories over PSU and Sac State marked the first 2-game winning streak over Division I opponents since March of 2018 for the Vandals. The Grizzlies eliminated Idaho in the Big Sky tournament last spring. In Bozeman, Montana State's men host Eastern Washington on Thursday in their first home game since beating the Grizz 66-59 on January 9th. The Bobcats have won 9 out of 10, including 5 in a row after last week's road sweep. EWU, the defending Big Sky champions, sit at 5-3 in league play despite the departure of head coach Shante Leggins and 8 Eastern players in the offseason, including Tanner Groves, last season's league MVP. The Montana State women play at EWU tonight, and the Lady Grizz play in Cheney on Saturday. MSU and UM's games against the Idaho women were postponed due to COVID-19 protocols. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory. Oh, baby, little John Frusciante for you on a Thursday. It's my favorite song in the world to ski to. Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport having their anniversary sale now with huge discounts on their lot here in Missoula, corner of Stevens and Mount, or by visiting nwmsrocks.com. Check out Northwest Motorsport's huge inventory and huge discounts right now. Their anniversary sale lasts until the end of this week. Missed anything in the first hour of the show? You can always find it on the Nuanez Now podcast, probably presented by the Advocates as well as Sportsbet Montana. As we do each Thursday, first hour of the show during basketball season, around the Big Sky Women's Hoops, the Krista Redpath. Appreciate Krista for contributing, as she always does. This week, our presenting sponsor was the Missoula Downtown Partnership. It's Dine Local Week, so visit MissoulaDowntown.com to check out all of what the Missoula Downtown Partnership has to offer. What up? Happy Thursday, everybody. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport celebrating their anniversary. You can always check out the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest by heading over online to nwmsrocks.com. Missed anything in the first hour of the show? Around the Big Sky and Women's Hoops with Krista Redpath, our Big Sky Conference insider. Appreciate her and appreciate the Missoula Downtown Association for sponsoring this week in Big Sky Conference basketball. As we're getting into sort of a routine now, Brooks Nuanez joins us here, SkylineSportsMT.com, as well as our resident NFL insider. Brooks, thanks for being here, man. How you living?
I'm very good, man. It's that time of year where it's just crossover. Sports. There's lots of them going on.
Yeah. Broad question for you, because we talked about this on Tuesday with our good friend Justin Angle on the business angle. The Olympics start next week.
Oh, yes.
You care.
Oh, I love the Olympics.
Me too, but what makes you care? It seems as if the care about the Olympics, particularly the Winter Olympics, has dissipated more than almost any other sport in the world. Why?
Interesting. Well, I think that, this global pandemic has not helped things like the Olympics.
No.
I think that's probably the number one issue a sport could face is not being able to, get together internationally. I think the Olympics for me are super exciting because the stories of the athletes are great, but it's so much about the athletic pursuit. Like
Sure.
there is some personal aspects of it. I get to hear about someone's grandma they saved in Iceland when
Sure.
they were, kids. That's all great. I just like to see the world records fall.
Sure.
I just like to see someone get on some skis and jump 226 feet.
Yeah.
I love that. The nationalism of it, rooting for America, is really fun. But yeah, just getting to learn new athletes that are not on any other kind of stage that don't do it for money. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't demean it because I'm very intrigued in it as well. I think it's just a reallotment of how we will consume it and all of that. Like, are you going to be sitting down primetime TV watching pre-recorded events that you already know the results of? Or are you going to be following it live on the app on your phone? Or are you going to be following it on Twitter? How are you going to be consuming this?
I'm going to watch primetime for sure. I'm going to do some recording. I recently got some DVR. I haven't had cable for 10 years, so now I have this recording ability.
Buddy.
It's brand new. It's great for sports. I forgot about it.
It's like the meme says, maybe someday somebody could bundle all the streaming services together and call it cable.
Right. So I still have some services. Things get expensive around there, but that's okay because there's a lot of good content out there. So I will be watching some primetime. I'll be texting our dear mother about figure skating and things like that. Because she's very, very into that. Primetime, recording, and then seeking out unique events to show my kids. There's some really cool stuff. There's the event where they cross country ski and then shoot the bow.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I love it. So there's some really fun stuff like that we'll kind of track, and then we're going to watch, some snowboarding, some skiing, and some stuff that the kids will really enjoy as well.
I think that us that just love watching humans pursue lofty goals and display their unique gifts. The Olympics still are awesome. They're great. I just think that it's lost a little bit of luster in the American sporting lexicon, and not for any sort of good reason, all because of bad reasons. But, you can sit there after an NFL weekend and debate all the calls the coach made. Why this? Why that? Why didn't the Bills squib it? All this sort of thing. So the conversation beyond the result is what people actually live for better or worse. Whereas there's not much of a conversation about this because unless you're some sort of incredible aficionado, there's no real way to even know or see the difference between the perfectly landed aerials jump or, when I'm watching figure skate, they all look unbelievable. I don't know what the difference is. You can kind of tell the nuances of when they really nail it, but then sometimes there'll be a routine where whoa, that was perfect. Why wasn't that a perfect score? Why is that worse than the one that was less perfect?
Yeah, no, you don't have the nuance down, Coco. You need to watch more figure skating. It's all about the height of the jump. 4 spins is more than 3 spins.
I do think you also mentioned just amateur athletics. I think that's one thing that has been withdrawn a little bit is that even though these are quote unquote amateurs, they have to go through such a professional model in terms of training and in terms of branding and resources and all that sort of stuff. And sort of the romanticism and naivety that used to exist, particularly for the female stars, like the figure skaters and the gymnasts when it comes to the Summer Olympics. Simone Biles is unbelievable to watch. She's also in every element a completely pro athlete. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah.
She's a machine of a person to be able to perform like that. So there's not necessarily the Carrie Shrugs and the Mary Lou Rettons and the Nadia Comaneci's and Oksana Boyul and whatever figure skaters you might come to mind. Anyways.
Sure, I love the Summer Olympics more than the Winter Olympics.
Oh, for sure.
But there is this element that I have to get out there that I think is the coolest part of the Olympics, is that there is kids. There's children, 15, 16 years old, and there's always someone who's also in their 40s, in their last Olympics.
Yep, right.
And those two lexicons competing against one another, the first-time Olympian, the fourth-time Olympian, I love that.
Yep, and we have some cool Montana Olympic stories as well. A couple young ladies that have been on this show, including one who's been on the show many times, Maggie Voisin from Whitefish, as well as Darian Stevens from right here in Missoula, Montana, are both on the U.S. freestyle team. So very cool. We both kind of cut our teeth up at the bowl, up there at Stowe Bowl, and still producing epic freestyle skiers. I remember even back in the day, some of the people that was skiing up there, and you're like, yeah, that person definitely has a shot someday, and continue to pump them out. So very cool. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television, coming to you here on a Thursday. Hope you're having a great week. Brooks, we've been talking so much NFL, and we are going to talk a little NFL, but I want to talk first about Big Sky Conference hoops because we've covered the Big Sky together now for 8 years. I've been covering it for 15 plus. As weird as last year was, this year's even weirder because last year there was way less cancellations and things like that because everybody was so much more isolated. There was no fans in the stands. The procedures weren't known. There's a lot of gray area there as well. But we've been sitting here trying to dive in to fully going all in on analyzing the Big Sky for both men's and women's basketball. And last couple of weeks, we've hit a little bit of a groove. This last weekend, all 4 Montana teams played for the first time in a long time. But now here we have a game tonight in Missoula, Idaho coming to town to play Montana. And this is crazy because this was the first time the Grizz have played at home since I watched them against Weber State some 27 days ago, 26, 25 days ago.
Trip.
It's a long time away because, the Bobcat Grizz game gets rescheduled to a Sunday. I missed that one because we're still in Texas. And then cancellation against Southern Utah on what was otherwise an open week for Montana, and then a road trip. So been hard to get a real bead on the Grizz, but that's kind of across the league too, because not only is it not really that many viewing opportunities, but also every team that the Grizz or the Bobcats play, swimming to try to figure out who all these guys are too. Like watching NAU, I was like, well, I don't know anybody besides Carson Touts. Jalen Cohn's a great addition for Virginia Tech, but like NAU doesn't have a senior. Cam Shelton's gone. Luka Dolovich is gone. Portland State, nobody. Not one guy besides Khalid Thomas is back on the team. So it was just so hard to like sort of get in the flow, because usually that's the best part of what we do. We get to know all the teams in the league so well. So you have like this intimate knowledge of the matchup and what's going to play out. It's almost disorienting watching games because everybody's so new. That's the irony, actually, is Montana actually has more back from what we sort of familiarized ourselves with last season than ever before. But what do you think of this prospect of going to the Grizz? You've only seen them one time live so far this year because of this sporadic schedule.
Yeah, it's been different, man. And the league is there's just some sporadic outcomes in the league this year just due to some of, you mentioned the scheduling, some of the new players. I mean, that's not just us. Getting a scout on a player from Virginia Tech who's only played 6 games is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, there's some surprises in the league, I think, back and forth. On the women's side, so Utah playing really well has been a surprise. You know, they've struggled over and over. And I like what Tracy Sanders has done there. I mean, she's turned that into what seems to be an up-and-coming program. On the men's side, Southern Utah's playing really well, too. So it's very interesting, of course, the T-Birds are going to make this bombastic exit from the Big Sky in the weirdest way, the weirdest team with the weirdest coaches and the weirdest program. And by God, they might go win it on both sides.
People in Montana are going to forget that Southern Utah even existed because they haven't come to Montana in 2 years.
Yeah, they just opt out. They happen to get COVID every single time they play the Grizz on the road. What a deal.
What a deal. We don't need to digress there, but there is a real dynamic there, and it's quite
Utah men have played like 3 road games in 2 years.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy the way that it's all played out. But let's talk first about the result from earlier this week. The Montana State women take down the Lady Grizz, and a huge turning point because this Bobcat team was pretty clunky to watch because of their lack of outside shooting the first couple months of the year. And then Darian White goes down with an illness. We'll leave it at that, and then they have to take 16 days off, and then they come back, and they're facing this 4-game stretch in 7 days, and they take care of business and sweep the entire homestand, and then they get a day off today, Thursday, because their game Montana State plays tonight against Eastern Washington, but their game on Saturday has been called off against Idaho. So MSU now, though, 6-2 in league play, and I was interested to see if they were a contender again or not. They look like a contender now coming out of their 73-59 win over Montana on Monday evening in Bozeman.
Yeah, and I'd say the Lady Cats are not quite as well rounded as they have been in the last 5 or 6 seasons, where they've had so much depth and really solid bench play, and they have some gals that have really come along that have made pretty big improvements that are major contributors, but that whole program is really driven by Darian White right now.
Totally.
And I think that was always going to be, as a freshman, she played on a very deep team, but then once it was going to be, some of those seniors graduate, it was going to be her team, and it was going to be a program that was led by her, and kind of the outcome of most games was going to be defined by Darian White, which is a little different than what they've done in the past years, as I mentioned. But as you said, Colter, the outside shooting has not really come along until recently. They've shot it a little bit better. But I think overall, they're going to beat teams playing good defense and getting up and down, and, controlling the pace and doing things that put them in the driver's seat during games. But right now, it's such an open league that Darian White could go win it by herself. They could also lose in the first round.
The fact that Idaho is struggling so mightily is the other big hiccup in the league. Didn't expect that. I mean, we both really appreciated all of the dynamics that both Natalie Klinker and Gabby Harrington brought to Idaho, 2 of the best rebounding forwards in the league, and it really took a lot of pressure off Beyonce B. And now that it's B, and they're hoping Sydney Gandy could come along, but not much there for Idaho. So that's definitely a lack of a contender that we expected to be a contender in the Big Sky.
The best part about it, though, is it's a neutral site tournament where everyone plays.
Totally.
I mean, they could go win it. I wouldn't count John Newley out for his second.
Oh, absolutely. The 2 best neutral
MVP.
The 2 best neutral site coaches in the Big Sky, men's and women's, are the 2 coaches in Idaho for the women's side. Seton Sobolewski and John Newley. That's not an opinion. That's a fact, just in terms of the results so far. I mean, that's not to take anything away from Travis DeCure at Montana or Tricia Binford or at Montana State or even Todd Simon at Southern Utah, but the 2 best neutral site coaches are Seton Sobolewski and John Newley at the 2 Idaho schools.
Yeah,
so
you could probably argue they're the 2 best coaches in the league either way.
No question. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Let's talk a little men's hoops. Brooks Nuanez in studio with us. Let's talk a little men's hoops. the Grizz seem to be finding a little bit of an identity. I know it's not one that is that a lot of people covet when you watch the Golden State Warriors and things like that, or the way the basketball has evolved to be so up-tempo and so wide open and so much about shooting. But for those of an old school nature, maybe you do appreciate it a little more. Either way, I don't think it matters what anybody thinks. Travis DeCuire was certainly very happy with a pair of road victories when his team averaged 62 points over those 2 road wins, because his team still won by 6.5 points in those 2 victories. So, I don't care who you're playing. It's a ridiculous defensive effort if you hold a Division I team to 48 points. I mean, you're winning games by 10 points without scoring 60. There's no other school that really does that consistently besides Virginia. So, again, you can bemoan the lack of entertainment value all you want, but this is the way the Grizz have decided they're going to win this year. And I don't know. It might not be aesthetically appealing, but I actually don't think it's a flawed notion. I think it's actually smart. I think it's what they should do.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's working. I love personally participating in that style of basketball.
Sure.
I love getting up in people and making it tough and grinding it out. Offensively, though, as you mentioned, Coulter, it may not be the most beautiful thing, but how would you describe it? So there is I'm gonna give you a handful of options. Okay, there is a 4-out, 1-in, swinging around the horn, maybe shoot some threes. There's a pick and roll, a high pick and roll. There is a dribble drive offense. Where do they like to score the ball?
I don't know. To me, it's
maybe in transition. Nope.
To me, it's such and Montana has the ultimate trump card in the league because they have Travis DeCuire. If he controls the full game for 40 minutes, he will win 85% of those games. That's why he wants to play 58-48, because he knows that if it really comes down to his play calls and his sets, he will win. Now that Shante Liggins is gone, there's nobody in the league that's going to outcoach him. Period.
Definitely.
But it's also just a display, and I'm not saying that they're untalented. I do think they have some good young talent, but the talent objectively is not nearly what it was. They're running the same stuff that they were running when they had Michael Ogine, Ahmad Rory, and Jamar Coe. They just don't have Michael Ogine, Ahmad Rory, and Jamar Coe. When the point guard kicks it to the wing and the wing is supposed to penetrate and then make something happen, and that cues the entire motion of the offense, when it's Michael Ogine and he can get wherever he wants on the court, the whole offense looks beautiful. It flows so well. When you run the high-low, Fabian Krizelvic catches the ball at the top of the key and he dumps it down to Jamar Coe. It's just a perfect slap-class layup, and Jamar Coe's just sitting there shooting 75%. Looks pretty dang good. It's the same stuff that they've been running well before Coach DeCuire. When it's Matthias Ward and Will Cherry and Anthony Johnson, looks pretty good. Kareem Jamar, all the way down the line. When it's Andrew Strait and Kevin Criswell, all the stuff. I mean, the guy playing on the ball, running the wheel route along the baseline, coming off a double screen, catching at the elbow, and then making something happen. It's like the most tried and true thing in Grizz hoops. We've been watching it since, I don't know, you probably remember all the way back to David Bell. I remember all the way back to, I'm trying to think, Travis Walker, Sam Riddle. It's the same thing. They just don't have that guy anymore. I don't know why. Sure. I don't know why, though. I don't know why Robbie Beasley or Brandon Whitney or whatever can't become that. Maybe they can.
Yeah, they're still young. It's a young team.
They still are young, but also, I just don't know if, no matter how good or solid or whatever any of these guys could ever become, I don't know if they are pros like Ahmad Rory and Michael Ogine.
Sure.
So I don't know. And I think that's part of the glitch. So I'll ask you this. If you define yourself as a defensive team and you do, everybody buys into being gritty and winning these games 58-48, does that then subconsciously or secondarily hinder your ability to execute on offense?
Yeah, I think absolutely, especially because your energy level.
Sure.
You're pouring all your energy into one side of it. Usually, good NBA teams, for instance, good teams in general usually have kind of 3 offensive player, 2 defensive player kind of effort level.
Right.
You have to have a guy that is your lockdown defender, but he cannot put it out on offense. That's why the guys in the NBA that are so transcendent are truly next level, amazing greats. The LeBron James of the world.
Kawhi Leonard of the world.
Kawhi Leonard of the world. I love how Jimmy Butler gets after it.
Yep.
Very few guys can get after it on both ends.
Right.
This team kind of is like a mostly just getting after it on defense, and on offense seeing what comes to them. And it's a tried and true system. But Coulter, we've talked a lot about the NCAA tournament. Are you playing to win the Big Sky tournament?
Yeah, that's right.
That's a good thing. That's a very, very good thing.
That's right.
But can you win with this style in the NCAA tournament when you draw a 13 seed and you have to play Michigan? It's tough, man.
It's the ultimate dichotomy that the Grizz have faced under Travis DeCuire and will continue to face, because, again, you can't win an NCAA tournament game unless you get to the NCAA tournament. And Travis DeCuire wants to get to the NCAA tournament.
Right.
But then if you play a 34-game schedule that way, I totally agree. You're never going to bully ball Michigan and Virginia.
Never.
And that's the other thing for the Grizz that's been out of their control is that the league isn't as good as what the Grizz want to be. And Eastern experienced this a little bit as well the last handful of years. And so it doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, the Grizz won 26 games back-to-back years. They were two of the better teams we've ever covered. And they still got a 14 and a 15 and had to play Michigan.
For sure.
It's like, what's it take to actually get a better seed than that? I don't really even know because the league is going to hold you down. I mean, you can't really can't do better than 18-2 in league. Like, you're just not going to go 20-0.
Right.
And so I don't know. I think that it is sort of a dichotomy because, again, you want to get there and you can't get – this is the way that they've decided they want to get there. So it is endlessly fascinating. But this weekend – with Idaho, which is a mirror image in style to Montana coming to town. That's going to be an interesting one because that'll be a slugfest, I'm almost certain, tonight in Missoula. And then Saturday, you get the dichotomy. Eastern plays the exact opposite style of Montana. They want to open it up and ISO and all that. And so we'll see. The irony here is, though, the best offensive performance for the Grizzlies so far this year at Eastern Washington. They scored 91 points and won 91-78.
Yep.
And so it should be an interesting weekend of Grizz hoops upcoming. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, Brooks Nuanez, Skyline Sports, MT.com, in studio with us. And Brooks, on the other side of the Continental Divide, don't look now, but Montana State has won 9 out of 10. They're sitting there at 6-2 in league play. One of their 2 league losses was an overtime loss, their very first conference game a long time ago. So they've been dang good. I know when Danny Sprinkle first got hired, it was such an interesting analysis of him taking over the program. Because he's taken over for Mr. Smooth Talker, Brian Fish. I mean, Fish is one of the most entertaining, engaging people you'd ever meet. I mean, he still calls me all the time just to talk because Fish just can't stop talking. He always wants to know what's going on, what's the scoop, whatever. But Fish was a phenomenal recruiter, and after that, a lot left to be desired. And we just wondered, well, where's this guy that went to Montana State from Montana? He's going to understand the roots and the dynamics of the program, certainly. He's going to understand the fundamental challenges and all that. But as a guy who's never coached anywhere besides a 4-year stint at Montana State under Brad Hughes, and then split stints between Cal State Fullerton and Cal State Northridge, pretty okay but not elite Big West programs. What's Danny Sprinkle going to be able to do? Well, I've been more pleasantly surprised with Danny Sprinkle as far as a coaching hire that I maybe was undecided about when it happened than almost any coaching hire we've covered. He's added. I think he understands young people as well as any coach that we cover in the Big Sky, particularly any coach in the state of Montana. I think he understands the new age dynamic. But I also expected him to build his program around skill and shooting, and that's part of it. But they are way tougher than I expected them to be. They are one of the toughest teams in the league. I mean, they are on par in toughness with Montana and Southern Utah, which was never the case for the Bobcats. I mean, they out-toughed Montana in a Cat Grizz game. That hasn't happened since I was in high school, probably. It's been forever since that was the case. It's a true testament to what he's been able to instill there at MSU. And now here the Bobcats are sitting there. They're 14-5. They're closing out a 21 season. They haven't had a 21 season since I was a freshman in high school. So Sprinkle, he's done a hell of a job there at MSU.
Absolutely, man. And that toughness, a lot of times, we always got to remember who the players are,
For sure.
I mean, I think Brian Fish wanted to be as tough as anyone. It just wasn't happening.
For sure.
Because Tyler Hall and Harold Frey just aren't really built like that.
For sure. And Fish had some tough guys.
He did.
But they just had this weird dichotomy of style because he would have these edgy guys like Quentin Everett who could get up in your grill and literally had a grill.
Gold teeth. Yeah,
but when your backcourt is shooting the ball after 10 seconds on the shot clock and they're scoring 25 points a game each, you're going to play 80 games in the 80s. It's just how it goes.
It has to be like
that. It has to be like that.
Right. So now Sprinkle, they can score and be tough, which is a good balance. I think that's where you want to be, right? That's where Southern Utah has been so successful.
Sure.
That's where Northern Colorado, in the last 4 years ago with Jordan Davis and Andre Spite and those kind of guys that you have a guy like Andre Spite that can fill it up, but then you have the toughness of Jordan Davis and you can score in the 90s but still play defense when it matters. And, the good Montana teams you mentioned, Ahmad Rory and Michael Guinea, those teams did that too. So Montana State has that right now. Amin Adamu gets after it. He's might be the most athletic player in the league, one of the 2 or 3.
Yep.
And he can lock people up, and then he gets out in the break, and him in transition, it's a tone-setting experience,
Yeah. Him being absent last week was fascinating, too, because when he was first out for for the last road trip, I thought, ooh, that's a big hit for the Cats. They actually adjusted pretty seamlessly without him, and I'm not saying they're better without him by any means, but they did play a little bit different of a style, way more Xavier Bishop oriented, and Bishop was really, really good. I mean, he scored 26 points, had 6 assists.
Man. He's very good.
He had 26 and 6 against NAU and was really good, and I think they're starting to see the emergence of a couple of their young guys coming off the bench as well. I mean, Raekwon Battle, a transfer from Washington, to get that guy to buy into a role coming off the bench, and then he can come off the bench and play any of 3 or 4 different positions. That's pretty big time. And Kellen Tynes, I mean, Dave Sprinkle told me that Kellen Tynes is the most talented on-ball defender he's ever had in his career as a coach, assistant, or head. And so Tynes has definitely become a contributor as well. But more than any of the personnel stuff, the thing I appreciate about Sprinkle is I think that in this day and age of college sports, particularly in a small league like the Big Sky Conference, and particularly in Montana where you're going to get way more media exposure than any of your other peers, mitigating and regulating the amount of hype that your program gets is a huge factor. It's the way of the world to have Twitter videos and, you're glorifying everybody all the time for this and that and the other, highlight videos afterwards, hype videos before, Kellen Tynes hit a 3 and there's the graphic of him giving the GIF. It's all part of it, whatever. But the thing I appreciate about both Travis DeCure and Danny Sprinkle, but particularly Sprinkle because he goes out of his way to do this, every time that there's like a graphic, like there's a graphic earlier this week about the 14-5 start and winning 9 out of 10 and, where they're at right now. And just platitudes. Best start in 24 seasons. First time they've had this many wins and at this time since, 2002, whatever. Sprinkle always retweets it or posts it on whatever social media saying, hey, appreciate what these guys have done so far. Proud of them. We're not anywhere yet. And he talked about it on this show. He said, hey, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters until you go to play 3 games in Boise to go to the NCAA tournament. And like he said on the show on Tuesday, we're so far away from playing in the championship game on Saturday, we got to keep getting better. So I just think that his ability to sort of balance the new age phenomenon and as well as keep his team driven, he does it as good as anybody in the league.
And they have fun.
It
looks like they're having fun. They like it.
What a novel concept.
Yeah, they enjoy it. That doesn't happen in all of college basketball for some dumb reason, but it's just the way it is.
Well, I mean, what's been one of the biggest turning points of the Tricia Binford era at Montana State? So much fun, man. You watch them celebrate on the bench. Revitalization of the aspect of fun in the Lady Grizz program has been a huge boost to them.
Huge. Oh, it's a whole different product.
I mean, they're the whole defining factor of the Lady Grizz for the previous 2 seasons before this one was just the mania of everybody wondering what's going to happen. Are we coaching for our jobs? Are we playing for our playing time? Just looking at the bench constantly. When am I getting subbed out is just so ridiculous. And now, despite their loss to the Montana State on Monday, Lady Grizz look a lot more fluid and like they're having a lot more fun as well.
Yeah, totally, man. It's such a huge part of basketball. Basketball is a beautiful game, and it needs to have a drop of fun in it, especially when you're winning. I think it's how you can continue and carry momentum.
Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com. We'll be providing full coverage from across the Big Sky, specifically shooting the games and covering the games in Missoula Thursday night and Saturday night. So check out SkylineSportsMT.com. And also keep it dialed right here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. More Big Sky Conference hoops and around the world of sports. Right after this, it's ESPN Radio. Sometimes it's stressful juggling all your responsibilities on the weekends. You know you need to do your chores. You know you want to spend time with your family, but really, you just want to watch football all day. Paradise Falls is the perfect option for a family-friendly place to hang out and still have a chance to catch all the games. Open 7 a.m. till midnight and offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Paradise Falls has 30 big screen TVs, ESPN 3 capabilities, and much, much more. Swing on by Paradise Falls on Brook Street anytime you're in the mood for some food or some football. Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
The world of real estate is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Grizz hockey is back this Friday against University of Providence. This will be the final home game of the year, and the team will need your support as they make their final push for playoffs. Help send off the Grizz with one final party at the Glacier Ice Rink and let the visiting team know that Montana has the best fans in college hockey. Tickets on sale now at Hockey Wolf on Brook Street, or you can get them at the gate day of game. Free shuttle for students picking up at Miller Hall. Beer and seltzer sold at the game. The last Grizz hockey game of the season this Friday at 7:30 p.m.
Like most Montanans, we love a good steak. And because we're the Montana Club, we take the steaks we serve very seriously. We're confident to say that our custom grilled steaks are as good a steak as you're going to get. Now we're proud to add regularly sourced, naturally raised Castle Rock bison ribeye to our selection. And remember, the Montana Club steak entrees include the sides. Come into the Montana Club today for an unrivaled steak experience. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Jake Dubek knows people, and because of his gift of getting to know anyone he crosses paths with, Jake Dubek understands what makes Montana so great. The Montanans. Whether you're looking to buy or sell real estate in the Helena area, Jake Dubek should be your first call. Any questions you might have, from the accelerating Montana real estate market to knowledge of the neighborhoods in and around the capital city, if you're in the Helena area, call Jake Dubek at 406-465-5506. Jake, proud supporter of the Montana State Minute with Danny Sprinkle.
Montana brings a variety of reasons to get outdoors. Gear up at Bob Ward's Sports and Outdoors, Montana's largest sporting goods retailer. For over 105 years, Bob Ward's has been committed to providing outstanding customer service, merchandise selection, and value. Bob Ward's has every brand and everything you need to run, climb, hunt, hike, camp, fish, ski, paddle, everything you do outdoors. Open 7 days a week in Missoula, Bozeman, Butte, Helena, and Hamilton. Or online 24/7 at bobwards.com. Gear up at Bob Ward's, a Montana tradition of adventure since 1917.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Big Sky Conference men's basketball teams return to the Treasure State for the first time in more than 2 weeks starting tonight. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. In Missoula, the Montana Grizzlies play their first home game since New Year's Day, with Idaho coming to town. The last time UM took the court at Dahlberg Arena, the Grizz posted a 74-72 win over Weber State. UM has won 4 of 5 since Big Sky play re-engaged on December 30th, including sweeping Portland State and Northern Arizona on the road last week. The Vandals lost 6 straight games to start the new year, but beat Portland State on Monday for their second straight win. The victories over PSU and Sac State marked the first 2-game winning streak over Division I opponents since March of 2018 for the Vandals. The Grizzlies eliminated Idaho in the Big Sky tournament last spring. In Bozeman, Montana State's men host Eastern Washington on Thursday in their first home game since beating the Grizz 66-59 on January 9th. The Bobcats have won 9 out of 10, including 5 in a row after last week's road sweep. EWU, the defending Big Sky champions, sit at 5-3 in league play despite the departure of head coach Shante Leggins and 8 Eastern players in the offseason, including Tanner Groves, last season's league MVP. The Montana State women play at EWU tonight, and the Lady Grizz play in Cheney on Saturday. MSU and UM's games against the Idaho women were postponed due to COVID-19 protocols. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory. Epic. Fade to Black, baby. Gotta see these guys someday live in concert before I die. Metallica for you on a Thursday. I bet you didn't know that was Metallica. If you did, you knew. Maybe you didn't know. They can go a little acoustic harmony. This is actually even old Metallica, too. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Although we are not on SWX right now because it's the game of the week right now between the Montana Tech Ore Diggers and University of Providence Argos. Frontier Conference action, game of the week on SWX Montana. A little women's basketball for you. At half, University of Great Falls leads Montana Tech 28-22. Competitive game so far. Coming to you from Great Falls, they are on SWX. Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate you being here. Every other Tuesday, we have the business angle. We feature the business angle, which is an overlay between business and sports. Justin Angle, University of Montana business professor, joins us one of the most insightful and articulate guys we have contributing to this show. Love talking all things Justin Angle, but pretty interesting what's going on in the NFL playoffs. He and I talked about the Olympics, marketing within the Olympics on Tuesday, but then the segment ran a little long, so we saved the second half for today. Welcome back. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. You're listening to this as we record it from the Studio 49 here on the University of Montana campus at the Gallagher Business Building. Justin Angle, a professor of business here at UM, joining us like he does every other week, every other Tuesday. A business angle, the overlay between business and sports, proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications. We're talking about the Olympics and sort of the visibility of popularity or lack thereof and the potential viewership for the Winter Olympics from Beijing that start next week. And Justin, we were talking sort of about the dynamics of what makes people engage in sports. I think the last thing that comes to my mind is discussion points. So much of sports is we love rooting for or against certain teams, betting on them or against them, the accumulation of points in fantasy football and things like that. But also, though, hey, did you see this when it happened in the game last night? Yeah. What could this coach have done different? Did you see the last 13 seconds of the Chiefs game? Should the Bills have squibbed? Should the Cowboys have used a timeout? Whatever. And then we debate. It's a fun, but it also kind of brings us together. Like Andrew Houghton, who's going to do something with you a little later on, but he's our producer here at ESPN Missoula. He and I live together. We were just making some food the other weekend day, and we turned on the Olympic trials for women's aerials. Great, impressive, unbelievable to watch. I have no clue what's better than what. Unless you wreck horrifically, there's no like, well, what could have done better than this? Did you see how she did this better than her? Sure. And that's why she won. There's no discussion point whatsoever. I think we're just completely in awe of what they do, but it all just looks the same, so there's no discussion point.
Yeah, yeah, that ability to kind of create, it certainly creates drama, but it doesn't create, consternation.
Yes, right.
Decision making.
Right.
I mean, maybe in the hockey games or in the summer in the basketball games, the sports that we sort of start to understand, we can get closer to that. But yeah, like if an athlete in some aerial, you can see when a mistake is made, and you can see when somebody has like just a style of movement or a grace that others don't have. But you can't really say like, oh yeah, that was a bad decision to go for that next rotation, because it's like, who the heck knows if that's a bad decision or not?
Right.
And it doesn't create much compelling conversation. One other thing with the Olympics that I think is part of this too is that, at least for me, like growing up and for years and years, I had this romantic notion of what the Olympics represented, and I just think that's been undercut so much with all the controversy around doping and misbehavior by the IOC, and this latest thing we talked about a few weeks ago with Peng Shuai, the tennis player, and the IOC stepping in and sort of getting in bed with China in some opaque ways to be as charitable as possible. Yeah, I think people are maybe sick of the drama and like how these sort of Olympic cities get chosen. Just it just seems more and more corrupt as we learn more about it.
Well, the lines between amateur and professional have gotten so blurred.
I mean,
right?
I love the dream team, but you can kind of point to the dream team as the start of that.
No question, right? I mean, it used to be some of the biggest stars that would come out of the Olympics, both summer and winter, would be the really young female gymnasts and skaters. And there was such a, like you said, romanticism and almost naivety to those athletes. It wasn't like this. Simone Biles is one of the greatest athletes in the history of the world. There's no question about it. But it was also as if she was like this creation because of all of the life she had to dedicate to becoming this premier athlete. There's not that same, Mary Lou Retton or whatever, whoever you want to bring up, Nadia Comaneci, just sort of the innocence of it all. It was like, well, that person was destined to become the most decorated gymnast ever. We basically made her do it to the point of becoming the most decorated gymnast ever and then having a mental breakdown and wanting to walk away from the sport. There is no savory nature to it hardly at all, and it's really bad for the sort of publicity that surrounds the Olympics.
Yeah, great. I think it's on Netflix. It's a film that Michael Phelps produced.
Yes.
We talked about it.
The Weight of Gold.
The Weight of Gold. And it tells that sort of backstory of even athletes that succeed at the highest level in the Olympics.
Right.
After that's over, a lot of them don't have great career prospects. Totally. And the rug kind of gets ripped out from under them.
Well, it's like Phelps says. He says the one Olympics where he won 7 gold medals, he said, I got to enjoy it for 2 days because everybody kept asking me, I'm going to make a run at it again. Yeah. Okay, if I am, I have to start training now.
Right.
4 years ahead of the next Olympic Games. So it was sort of like a machine that he became a part of.
And when it's over,
right?
You're maybe in your mid-20s,
right?
And it's like, what are you going to do? You're really, really good at one thing.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean you're good at other things. When you start to compete for jobs, at real companies, you learn pretty quickly that, wow, all the sacrifices I made to be dominant at this one thing cost me in other areas of my life. And the hard realities of that are illustrated pretty poignantly in that film.
A business angle, Justin Angle, doing this from Studio 49 on the UM campus. We do this every other Tuesday. We'll be doing this style for the foreseeable future. Let's quickly talk about the NFL playoffs. Before we get into the Los Angeles Rams and their ticketing policy that's upcoming, I do want to ask you about one broad marketing thing. We've talked about the giant that the NFL is. We're talking about all these reasons why people maybe gravitate away from the Olympics, which used to be like the end-all, be-all. You're getting the biggest rating share besides the Super Bowl every single time the Olympics rolls around. To now, the NFL owns that space. And I find it fascinating because for almost any other professional sport or any other type of sport, period, if the 2 biggest and most visible stars in the sport, the 2 most polarizing men in the sport, were to be eliminated on the same weekend, it would be a catastrophe. We saw it with the NBA playoffs when there was no LeBron James and no, whoever else you want to name it within the scope of the NBA playoffs, and the ratings were way down. For NBA faithfuls, people loved it still, but not even close to the sort of fringe star power you're going to get. Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady are out. The Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers are out.
Yep.
Yet the NFL fully wins because you still have Patrick Mahomes. You still have this upstart Bengals team. You still have a team from L.A. in a huge market making a run. But more than anything, though, this is what I find fascinating. The NFL ultimately wins because you still have teams playing, and yet everybody's talking about the 2 teams that lost. So you have the conversation dominated on both sides. What's Brady and Rodgers going to do while the championship weekend's upcoming? The NFL, I don't know if I want to say they have it figured out in the most savory of ways, but they definitely have it nailed. They have a captive audience when it comes to the American sporting public.
I just think I hesitate to say this in some ways, but I think as far as like products ever created,
yes,
NFL football is perhaps one of the best products ever created.
Yes.
On par with the iPhones, and its ability to kind of transcend every other competitor in the category.
Yep.
The scarcity of games, the fact that they own Sundays, and it creates this cycle where, today's Tuesday. We're still kind of breaking down what happened over the weekend, venting our spleen or celebrating or speculating. And then as the week transitions, we'll start looking forward to the next week. And then they own that place on the calendar. It's sacred. It's become the religion of sports fans and the religion of the country in many ways. And you've got these great personalities, the Bradys and the Rodgers, and they're out, but you said people are still talking about them. And I don't know too, I don't know with Tom Brady. So I grew up in New England, I'm a Patriots fan, and so I love all the Patriots, Tom Brady stuff. But is he more popular now that he left? Like, do people actually
absolutely.
like him? Okay.
Because he humanized himself. He's no longer the
evil empire.
Exactly. He was the evil empire. Yeah. He's not quite Darth Vader because that's Bill Belichick, but he was like the disciple of Bill or something. And now that he, gets giggly with a glass of champagne on a yacht with Rob Gronkowski and almost throws the Super Bowl trophy into the ocean, people are like, oh, he is kind of a normal guy, and he's become way more popular, I think.
Yeah, and I think too, that popularity has created a following, but at the same time, it's also, when he does lose, it's noteworthy, but it's also democratizing. It's like you've got these other teams in the mix, and they're new faces and fresh faces, but they're also, the Rams are in a giant media market.
Totally.
Right? So, that is great for the NFL in terms of activating a fan base that's kind of been dormant for many years. And so, just a ton of upside for the NFL.
The thing that's so fascinating to me is, as you mentioned, in the scope of the market share, the NFL can truly do nothing wrong. That's what's so crazy to me. The worst scenario you could ever think up, and people talk about it, cry about it, complain about it. Not one person doesn't watch it. Not one person. The Las Vegas Raiders had the most horrific year ever. They had a receiver kill an innocent person driving 160 miles per hour blind drunk through Vegas. They have a coach get his emails hacked, endless amounts of racial epitaphs throughout the emails. Last game of the season against the Chargers, sold out. Like, there's not one person that did. They might have all been talking about it. There might be half the stadium that says, I disagree with this franchise and John Gruden and all these things. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
People still buy a ticket.
It's like tobacco and alcohol, right? Like, I'm not going to short those stocks, even though I feel guilty about holding them.
Sure.
Although at the same time, like, nothing lasts forever.
Sure.
So, just when you think something's a sure bet, I think that's when you're maybe close to a market top. So, that's when I start thinking about thinking of other things.
No question. Well, last thing for you, business angle. Justin Angle here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. The Rams ticketing policy. This is going to be fascinating because SoFi Stadium is the gem of gems of sports stadiums. I mean, this thing costs $5 billion. It's not just a stadium. They have, like, businesses, a mall, restaurants. I mean, you could live there. You absolutely could live there efficiently. But tell us about this ticketing policy and sort of maybe the controversies that might come from it.
Well, I caught this morning. I mean, the Niners, this is kind of a unique game, to have an NFC championship game with two teams, from the same state, right? Short, I think it's like 5-hour drive. And the Niners in particular, they are a good road team, right? And so they travel well. And I just love this from the my home discipline is marketing. I'm always kind of thinking about the customer experience and what are businesses doing to engage their customers, and loyalty programs and things like that are a big piece of it. And so, the Rams are not going to sell. They're going to geo-fence their ticket sales. They're not going to sell to zip codes in the Bay Area to try to keep Niners fans out.
Wow.
And so I think
that's crazy.
That's interesting on a couple different dimensions. One, it's like, how do we create the best, home field experience for our own team and prevent, to the extent that home field advantage is a thing, they're trying to control that. But what a way to just as a franchise to sort of express loyalty to its own customers by crowding, by prohibiting customers from the other franchise for buying your product. I just think that's a really interesting move.
Well, this is a phenomenon that is sort of new because NFL ticket prices have become so steep.
Yeah.
And we also have these metropolitan areas in America now that have people from all over the place. So for all of the Lambeau Fields and the Buffalo Bills fan base and things like that, these giant cities like Chicago and LA and New York, even Seattle to a certain extent, there's so many people that live in those cities that aren't from there, that like other teams, that, grew up in New England, now live in LA. And so then the tickets, it just becomes this giant bidding war. Who can afford it? It has nothing to do with your allegiance to the team. Can you pay for it? And so you get these smattering of fans. So it's a very interesting strategy. And you want to say there's a risk for it backfiring, but when you're driving from a metropolitan area of 20 million people, I don't think there is.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to fill that stadium.
For sure.
Right? And, I mean, it's a genius move. You might consider it evil genius, but anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting.
More in a couple weeks. We'll have all sorts of different things to talk about, including a Mid-Olympics update on some real-time results and as well as viewership. This has been a Business Angle. Justin Angle, University of Montana Business School, recording down here in his shop, Studio 49. Thanks for letting us come down, man. Thanks for being with us.
Anytime. Good to have you.
Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming at you. Former University of Montana Athletic Director Jim O'Day in studio. He's got all sorts of stuff to talk about. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. That was supposed to play on Tuesday. So, not Jim O'Day, just more from me. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
The football playoffs are finally here. Time to get off the sidelines and into the all-new Turf Club Sportsbook. straight bets, prop bets, parlays, and more. All in a modern game day lounge with plush recliners, food, and drink service. Don't just watch the games, get your piece of the action. Grab a few friends and huddle up now at Turf Club Sportsbook, the ultimate game changer. Only at Northern Quest.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires, introducing the new Backcountry AT2 for a quieter ride with improved performance in wet conditions. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe on the road this winter, the right tires help you feel prepared for anything.
Mom, hey Mom.
Well, almost anything. Plus, save up to $130 when you buy Quatrac tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
The rush of ripping a new pack of trading cards is hard to match. If you want to recapture the nostalgia of your youth, invest money in a worthwhile hobby, or find a healthy activity for your kids, come check out Zootown Sports Cards. Open from noon until 6, Tuesday through Friday, and on Saturday from 10 to 6, Missoula's premier sports trading card shop carries all the products you need to start or bolster your collection. Located at 102 South Avenue East, across from Doran Blazer Field, Zootown Sports Cards, where the rush of the rip is real. Missoula's premier sports trading card shop.
Automated Living is a Missoula-based smart technology company. If you are looking for a new home theater, some quality hi-fi music on your deck or den, a screen and projector in your boardroom, one button to turn off all the lights, cameras to monitor your parking lot, or a security system to keep you and your family safe, Automated Living has a solution for you. We make our clients' lives easier and more enjoyable while giving peace of mind with streamlined control of all elements in the home or office. Contact us today for a free consultation.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
Crossbody got a piece in it. Gotta dance, but it's really on some street. I'ma show you how to get it. It go right foot up, left foot slide, left foot up, right foot slide.
What up, Montana? A little Drake for you on a Thursday. Hope you had an outstanding day, afternoon, evening. I'm about to head down to the Grizz basketball game for the first time in a long time. I haven't watched the Grizz live and in person in almost 4 weeks. So excited. Idaho in town today and Eastern Washington in town Saturday night. So we'll have full coverage for you here at ESPN Radio as well as SkylineSportsMT.com. So look forward to that. Thanks so much for being here with us today. Missed anything in today's show? Around the Big Sky Women's Hoops with Krista Redpath for the first hour of the show. Then we heard from Brooks Nuanez breaking down the Big Sky Conference in men's hoops. And the second half of the Business Angle with Justin Angle. Everything can be found on the Nuanez Now podcast, proudly presented by the Advocates as well as Sports Bet Montana. Tomorrow, well, we made a change. You're probably expecting to hear from your good friend Carolyn, chick who doesn't know sports. Well, we're moving that to Fridays for a little while. So we'll hear from Carolyn. We're also tentatively going to hear from Colt Anderson, All-American safety for the Grizzlies, 9-year NFL veteran now, special teams coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, talking all things NFL playoffs. And also, our good buddy Regime Seabrook will be in studio. We'll meet you back here, 4 p.m. This has been Nuanez Now. Have a great night. Part of the glory of building a business comes from leaving a legacy to ensure your business continues thriving into the future. Have you asked yourself lately, what is your plan? Forming a personalized business succession plan is essential to know the passion you put into your business will carry on. Nick Tabor at Westpac Wealth is here to help you navigate all your business succession and retirement planning needs. Give Nick a call at 728-6699 and keep the spirit of possibility vibrant while making your future more tax efficient with a personalized business succession and retirement plan for you.
Automated Living has a passion for all kinds of audio and video solutions. We pride ourselves on staying educated on the best technologies out there to make your experience absolutely amazing. We customize every build after listening to our clients' dream for how their system should look and sound in their space. We make those kind of dreams come true. If you haven't seen an OLED television, come to our shop and see the difference for yourself. Want sound on the deck or around the house that you can control with your phone? Give us a call and we'll figure out how to professionally make that happen. Automated Living, life made easy.
If you're a gun enthusiast, you already know firearms and ammunition are as hard to come by these days as ever. Stay up to date with all the inventory both in-house and online at Selway Armory by signing up for Selway's newsletter. The Selway Armory newsletter will not only provide you updates on what's in stock at 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6. Signing up for the newsletter will also enter you for a chance to win free ammunition. And remember, even if the Selway warehouse doesn't have it in stock, you can always check out SelwayArmory.com. Selway Armory, your local firearms expert.
Is 2022 the year you're finally ready to step up your hair game? If you're not sure where to go, look no farther than Compass Barbershop, a modern barbershop for everyone.